Hi everyone and welcome back to another video in the Scratch Tower Defense game tutorial. I'm Masi.
And I'm Zach.
And in this video, we are going to give our player an advantage by giving him some ammunition.
Giving him not just ammunition, but the ability to shoot said ammunition.
Yep. And this is actually fairly easy. It's a fairly easy process.
It's a fairly easy.
And we'll see that there are, as usual, a few tweaks just to make it work well.
Which is with anything that we do in Scratch or
exactly
anything.
In life. It's a lesson for life. And just to keep a note, in this lesson we won't add in the collision detection. We'll do that in the later lesson. But in this one, we'll just give him the ability to fire these arrows and then go back.
Which is simple but challenging enough that we had to make it its own video.
Cool. So without further ado, let's dive into Scratch and start by importing the arrow sprite. So we'll hover over the cat, click on Upload Sprite, and then click on Arrow. So you'll notice for the arrow, there's just one. There's just one costume. So we won't be adding any more costumes. Okay. So first things first.
Right,
this
that
is a
arrow
massive
is
bolt.
bigger than him.
That's a harpoon. So I think let's go ahead and change the size. Maybe 25. Oh, that's far too little. Looks like the limit to how small something can be is 33 actually.
That is extremely odd.
How about 50? Let's just go into full screen and...
I think 50 looks good.
That looks right.
50 looks good.
Okay. Next up, we'll grab a when flag clicked. And what we want to do is we want to make the arrow always go to the player. Okay. So as long as the game is running, the arrow must follow the player around. So motion, and we need a go to... I don't see the go to player part.
There's it right on top. Right on top. Third one. Fourth one from the bottom.
There we go.
On the top.
And we'll go to guard. Okay. So let's go ahead and test that out. Okay.
Well, it's going to the guard.
It is doing exactly what we asked it to do. But, yeah, I mean, you can see that we have some issues. Right. So the first issue that I think we have is that is a similar thing to what we had with the enemy. It's the center of the arrow is not set. So he is going to the guard, but we want him to sit on top of the crossbow as if he's, it's as if it's loaded onto the crossbow.
Exactly, now it's sitting more or less on top of his
head. It's shooting from his head, not the crossbow. So we can head over to our costumes, click on Convert to Vector, and here's a neat little trick in Scratch. So as we move the arrow in the editor, we can see that in the play area, it's moving as well. So with the arrow selected, use the arrow keys on your keyboard and move the arrow. And you can see that in the play area, it's moving. So that's a neat little way of checking if it's in the correct position. And if we go into the full screen mode, oh, that's almost perfect. Okay, I think we'll leave it like that. In fact, actually, I want the tip of the arrow to be sticking out a little bit more from the crossbow. Let's head back to the code. And I think before we do any more tweaking, I mean, we know it's not perfect right now because we can see as he walks to the left or the right, it's still a bit wonky, but I'm excited to make him fire. So let's go ahead and do that part. And then we'll come back and do the final tweaks. So we'll head over to events again and grab another when flag clicked. Zach, do you want to walk us through this section?
Sure. Let's go what we usually do with a when green flag clicked and grab a forever and an if then. Then we're going to go to sensing and grab a key space pressed in there. So this, of course, we won't change because we want spacebar to be the button that fires the arrow.
Correct.
From there, let's use a glide.
Okay, so that'll be under motion.
That'll be motion and glide 1 second to X position and Y position.
Okay, not the random position one.
No, because we want to control where he shoots.
Okay, so before we even move on, I already see a small issue, and maybe you can help us explain how we're going to fix this. You see, when the guard is moving, the arrow needs to know what his position is because it needs to fire from that position.
So we want to control the X-axis. So we want to control where he is, left or right for the arrow. The arrow must use that, but it obviously on the Y-axis it's going down. It's going towards the bottom of the screen.
So it's the X position. It just needs to remember.
Right, it needs to go to whatever the guard's X position is, or its X position at the time. And for that, there's an interesting little piece. If you scroll down on motion, you'll see there's an X position tablet, and that goes in the X position function. The number you got there, glide 1 second to X.
15.
We got minus 15. You might have something else, but we're going to put the X position in there.
Okay, and then the Y position will be the absolute bottom of the screen. So let's say negative 250. Okay, and I think actually, let's just do this first. Before we actually play it like that, let's leave out the X position piece and see what happens if we don't have that set.
All right.
Okay, so that's definitely not what we want. And that's because the X position is not updating as the player moves. But once we put this piece in, now the X position is updating as he moves. So it knows exactly where he is and it'll fire from there.
And there we go. That looks good, despite the arrow being floating on top of him the whole time. The shooting looks good.
I mean, also I did see another issue is, look at this. As we're walking, he's basically shooting.
So he's shooting out of his shoulder now.
Yeah. We can fix that, right? But before that, the speed of the arrow, what do you feel about that? I
think it's too slow.
It is too slow.
I think we need to half the time, 0.5 seconds, and that looks much better.
Much better.
Pew, pew. All right. So, are we going to address the issues?
Yes. So I think the first thing that I want to take a look at is the as the player is moving, I don't want this arrow to be sticking out of his head.
That is really bugging me.
Yeah. So I think the first thing we'll head over to looks, and we need a hide piece. Okay. So we're going to grab a hide, and we're going to place that right here on the top at our first when green flag click, but outside of the forever piece. Okay. Then we need the arrow to show when we fire, because right now it'll hide and it's still shooting, but we can't see it. So we're going to grab a show piece and put this inside the if then space piece. So right there, forever, if space is pressed, show the arrow, then glide, and then hide again.
Wow, that is clever.
Okay, so once it's finished gliding, it's hiding. And there you go. What do you think, Zach?
I think that it works.
Right. Finally, the thing that I want to fix is the fact that he can shoot while moving sideways. I mean, even though his crossbow is not even facing in that direction, he's still able to shoot. So to fix this, we will stop the player from being able to shoot while he's moving. So we're going to be using a bunch of operators. And here's how we're going to do it. We want to say, what's happening there? Okay. We want to say that if the key space is pressed, if the space bar is pressed, Scratch first needs to check if the player is not moving left or right. And we've done something like this before in the guard. We did if not key right or key left is pressed, then do something. So we're going to do something very similar. To start off with, we'll grab an AND piece and place that in there. And we can take our key space pressed and place that in the first hole of the AND piece. Okay, so now we're saying if the space is pressed and something else, and the something else will be the NOT and an OR. I think you can guess what's going to go in there. So if the space bar is pressed and the left arrow or the right arrow is not being pressed. Does that make sense?
When you say it like that, it makes sense. At first, I was extremely confused.
I think it'll make a lot more sense once we put the pieces in. So the first one we'll put in. Oh, what have I done? Okay, so let's put that back. Okay, so that's the important thing actually. Just make sure that when you're trying to place these in, the correct cutout is being highlighted. So like that. And we change this to right and this one to left. Okay, so once again, if the player is pressing the space bar and he's not pressing the right arrow or the left arrow, then only should the guard fire. And I think we can just go ahead and test that out to see if it works. So I'm walking, I stop, I shoot, right? And look at this. As I'm walking, I hope you can hear the space bar. That's me hitting the space bar as loud as possible.
Alright, so you can't shoot.
You can't shoot.
But when
I stop,
there we go.
Then he can shoot. So that's more realistic, I think. And yeah. What's not realistic is the fact that these bad guys are invincible.
Well, it looks like you're shooting right just over them.
They are ghosts.
That makes more sense, of course.
Okay, so I think that'll be it for now. In the next one, I think we'll go ahead and add in the collision detection.
Alright, so that'll mean we will actually be able to use our arrows against the orcs.